Hello friends, and welcome to the start of a brand new city. We're in Cities Skylines 2, and this map is called Sunshine Peninsula. In this episode, I'm going to focus on setting up utilities, creating a starter road layout, a starter neighborhood, and the beginning of the city's first industrial zone. I'm super excited to get started, so let's jump right in. I'm starting the city by first creating a basic road layout. I'm not going to think too hard about what I'm doing here, but basically I'm using the medium 4-lane road as the main avenue into the city, and then I'm using small 2-lane roads to branch off of it to create several different grids using the grid tool. I'm paying careful attention to the shaded area. This lets me know how big the potential zoning can be off of each road. I don't want there to be too many gaps in between the grids. Beginning a road layout can feel really daunting, but don't fret too much. When I'm creating a road layout, I take into account the map, the wind direction, and the direction of the flow of water. This helps me get a general idea of where I want to place my different zones. Coming up, I'm going to start creating some small zones for residential, industrial, and commercial zones. And I'm also going to get started with placing down our basic water and electric utilities. This map does have a little bit of terrain that needs to be smoothed out, so I'm going to be doing that in order to place down our water pump. This first area that I'm creating is going to be my main industrial zone, but on the other side of our medium road avenue, I'm going to create some more grids, and that will be where our residential and commercial zones are going to be. So I'm going to be creating a lot more grids, and I'm going to mostly be using the grid tool. This main avenue, I feel like I'm just curving it around the map, and eventually it might curve back around. I'm really just playing with the shape as I go. I don't really have much of a plan, but I am putting a roundabout on the end for now, just because I think at this point there may be some other road that I'm going to connect it to. So I'm going to be doing that for the next few moments, and then coming up, we're going to get started on placing down those utilities. Using the grid tool can be a little bit tricky. I'm mostly paying attention to how the new roads are aligned off of this medium road. Since I'm using the 2-lane road to create the grids, it does overwrite a few sections of my 4-lane road, so I'm going back and upgrading those roads to the medium 4-lane road. Next, I'm playing with this curved area, and I'm trying to make some smaller roads within it. I envision this unique area as a commercial area with maybe some parks inside it in the future. This does take a couple of tries for me to make sure that the curved area is aligned how I want it. Next, I'm going to start connecting the city to the electrical grid. Now that we have our basic road layout going, I'd like to place my water pump along this riverbank. In CS2, you do have to connect water pumps to a road, so before I place my pump, I've gone ahead and lowered the terrain and I've smoothed it out in order to create a block of road where I'm going to place this water pump on. This area is going to have city services and industry on it, so I think smoothing out the terrain will help me in the long run. Next, I'm going to connect my city to the electrical grid. In CS2, the water and electricity run underneath the roads automatically, which is a really nice feature. I can also place down electrical power lines underground, which helps keep the aesthetic of the city looking nice. Right now, I had an issue with the water pump saying that the water level was too low. So I'm going into my terrain, I'm smoothing it out, and I'm also leveling it just a little bit so that the water can be deeper at this point. Now it looks perfect. So it's already connected to the road, and now we can go ahead, place down our sewage outlet, which is going to be on the other side of this riverbank, and then we're going to go in and we're going to start working on our electrical grid. Now I'm placing down a transformer which will connect to power lines outside of the city. This will import electricity since our city is currently being set up. Of course, if you would like to place a wind turbine down or a different power plant, feel free to do so. I just prefer to import electricity in the beginning because our city is still being established and I won't immediately start having to pay a high bill for monthly upkeep. Now the city is finally leveled up, so I'm spending my development point on roundabouts. In the beginning, most of my development points that I gain are going towards advancing the road progression tree. I just like to have as much of the roads available. Of course, you may choose to spend your development points on something else. As the mayor of your own city, it's entirely up to you. Now, I've purchased a couple of more tiles. Well, actually, really just maybe it's 3 in the beginning, but we're gonna get into the fun part, which is zoning. Zoning in CS2 is so different from CS1. There are different types of residential zones, not just low and high density. Commercial is a little bit different too. I've learned that I prefer to use the selection tool instead of the fill tool for most of my zoning. However, since we're starting from scratch, I start off using the fill tool to fill in some blocks for the low density housing. This does mean less control over how the blocks are filled, but right now I'm just trying to get citizens to move in. I'm also placing down some small commercial areas and very small industry blocks. The larger industry blocks produce larger buildings that have a lot of pollution. So for me, starting off small is the way to go. blocks I created using the grid tool are fairly large, so I'm dividing them up with a small 2-lane road, and I'm also using the small alley road as well. This will help me get a better idea for zoning the smaller lots. Next, I'm going to be working with my residential area, and I'm going to add in some medium density row houses. They actually might be my favorite type of zone in the game, at least so far. I'm also going to place down some more commercial zones, and I'm going to stick to creating smaller lots. Because this medium 4-lane road is acting as a collector, I'm hesitant to place a ton of zoning on it. I don't want this area to become too congested. This is probably the most difficult aspect in the game for me, managing the growth while also ensuring residents can afford to live here and have easy access to their jobs, shopping, and leisure. Next, I'm placing down a landfill. These are fairly large assets in the game, and I want to make sure that I'm not placing it above my industrial zone due to the wind direction. So I'm going to create a grid and then delete some roads to account for the landfill's space. I usually try to make my landfill areas as much of a square as possible, but of course when you create yours, you can make it whatever shape you like. Next, I'm going to add in some more industry, and I'm going to ensure that my lots are still fairly small, and I'm going to be sprinkling in a little bit of commercial in this industrial district. I'm also going to work on placing down the city's first medical center, which requires a little bit of space. And then we're going to go back and add in some detailing to our row houses and in our residential area. Although we don't have much to work with in terms of detailing in CS2, we do have bushes and trees. Between my row houses, I'm creating a pedestrian pathway and I'm sprinkling in some trees and bushes for decoration. My lot sizes for the row houses are at most 5 squares long. This helps keep the cost of rent low for residents, especially considering the city doesn't have any education right now. So I'm just going to keep working on my residential zoning and decorating, and as I do so, I'm going to speed up the game just a little bit so you guys aren't bored. But by the way, as you're watching, if you like this video, don't forget to actually hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. I really appreciate your support, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Now that we have a rhythm going with the zoning, we've grown our population a little bit and our city is leveling up. We only have 2 development points to spend, so I'm spending them on the college and the advanced road services. Because we're still trying to grow our population, I don't feel the need to place down any educational assets right now, but we do have some more medium density residential that we can place down. So I'm going to finish decorating these row houses very quickly, and then I'm going to go and place down some more medium density apartment buildings on this 4-lane road. This will act as a little bit of a separator between our residential and commercial areas. So we are nearing the end of the video, and I've got to say that this start to the city looks pretty good. I'm just purchasing a couple more tiles of land, and then I'm going to add on to our residential area, and I'm going to create a new grid and I'll fill that in. I'm also adding in some pedestrian paths behind our medium density apartment buildings that we just created, and I'm going to put in some trees for a little bit of decoration and detailing, and then I will end the video with some cinematics for you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.